Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matty Peverell with Marky Davison as always. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well. As I was telling you off the air, because I think we're on air right now. I can see live, so we're on air. And welcome back to BTSC, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. Is that the saying? Did I get it right?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, sweet.
Well done.
So I've been
big tick for you.
Been doing my homework. I feel pretty good. Do you know why? Because I've been playing pickleball a lot, and I played yesterday 2.5 hours, and I just feel good. I feel good, and because Kenny's back again.
That's it, mate. So obviously we've been starting to show off the last few weeks with the injury report because this is kind of one of the last ones you get before the game. And so, look, basically, long story short is everyone's in except Witherspoon's doubtful. Pierre's questionable. I don't see it as a massive loss for Steelers. That's just me. And Sims is out. So
Sims
everyone
out.
else,
unbelievable.
Yeah. So everyone else is kind of good to go. I kind of think it's funny with Sims out though, because obviously there was a lot of chatter during the week about Calvin Austin and Canada saying he doesn't really know how to use him, and people overreacted to that. But at the same time, you're like, surely you know how to use him. But like Arthur Motes was talking about it and saying it's about whether he knows the playbook or not. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. I just think if Steven Sims is out this week, whoever they're getting to fill in terms of the punt and return game, like this creates, I think, an opportunity maybe for Calvin Austin to work his way back in. But I don't know. It doesn't look like I haven't heard any news in the last 24 hours. I don't think he's been activated, but it might affect what happens next week. I don't know.
Are they going to go back to Shesky then? Is that what's going to happen for this game?
I haven't seen anything in my quick rounds of the news this morning, but I don't know. I don't know.
Not that it's like for one game, I'm okay with it. For who, sorry?
You'd think so, I guess, unless you've got Connor Hayward fielding the punt and you're hoping for
that'd be cool. Give Connor Hayward the ball.
Yeah, especially after last week.
Any chance you can get. He's playing some good football, man. Yeah, I like what he's doing over that way. I don't know if he can return punts, but I think for one game, if it's Oshesky, I'm okay with that. But it sucks that Steven Sims is out because
I'm not okay with it. I can test you. I'm not okay with it because for me, this goes back to that whole Ryan Switzer stuff where we kept saying, "Oh, at least he catches the ball," or he'll do better, or he can't fumble it, or he can't stuff up the catch as many times. And how many times did he do that? I don't know. I just think
but if it's only
Steelers aren't a good enough team that they can afford a mistake like that right now.
If it's only one game, though, it's all right. But it depends how long this injury is going to go for. Because Steven Sims ran that football back for 87 yards, and then he got chased down. But it was pretty fun to watch, and he got a good punt return too for about 20 yards. So that kind of sucks. But hopefully they got a plan to put someone else in place. You don't want James Pierre fielding the kickoff again. You know what I mean?
He might be out, mate.
Yeah, true. So it's pretty good. I'm pretty positive about this team going into the big game versus Kenny versus Tua in Miami, Florida. I'm pretty excited, man. And for us, it's at 11 a.m. Let's go. We get to be awake. We get to be alive. We can actually see the game.
Yeah, it's hard though. I got work. It's hard.
Cool and sick. Have some few beers. You'd be right.
No, not this week, mate. But I also wanted to give an update on the Miami Dolphins injury report as well. Keon Crossan, cornerback, doubtful. Terran Armstead, questionable. That could be helpful for us. That could be helpful for the league leader in sacks, Alex Highsmith. Xavier Howard had a veteran rest and a groin complaint. He's questionable. You'd think he'd play. Kader Kohu is questionable. He's a cornerback with an oblique injury. Now that's interesting because obliques they're a pretty important muscle when you're twisting and turning. He's a guy I talked about on War Room this week. I was a little bit surprised until I went actually and looked at the snap counts for Miami. I didn't realize how big an impact he's making for their secondary. So even if that's a name that most people are unfamiliar with, that's actually could be a decent loss for their defense. Greg Little has an Achilles injury. He's questionable. That's a big issue if Armstead's out. Emmanuel Ogbar, who I always really like, I think he makes a big impact. He's got a back issue. He's questionable. Each back issues are all different depending on who it is. Obviously, we've seen Ogunjobi, have a back complaint last week, come out and play a great game against Tampa. Skylar Thompson, right thumb questionable. I mean, they've got Tua back, so is what it is. Jalen Waddle's shoulders questionable. You'd think he'd play, especially with Tua coming back, and they've had a few losses. And then Christian Wilkins has a hand issue. He's questionable. But, I mean, you've only got one person in the doubtful, designation right now. So, Miami are going to have a fairly fully healthy squad, I would have thought. But I think it's crazy how, like, every time we've talked about this over the last 4 weeks, there's a different. Up until this week, we weren't seeing any doubtfuls across teams. Now we're seeing doubtful. I mean, at least we don't have this stupid dash that's appearing. But questionable versus doubtful. Why don't we just have a maybe? Or who knows?
Wasn't it a movie?
Sick of these designations.
Wasn't there a movie called Mrs. Doubtful? What is that a thing?
Doubtfire.
Doubtfire. I got the wrong one. Did I really say Mrs.
Your analogy went up in flames there.
Holy dooly. Mrs. Doubtful. That's great. All right, moving on.
Doubtfire. Some people find that movie really scary. I didn't, but
scary? Why? Because she gets lit on fire, or Robin Williams?
No, like that. It's just like it's Robin Williams, and he's in this old woman's costume, but he's actually a man, and like
I haven't seen it
when you do look back on it, you're like, oh, okay. But I mean, I think Robin Williams is fantastic, and
he was great.
Rest in peace to that comedic genius. But anyway, moving on back to the Steelers. Mark, I think this game is kind of really interesting with Mrs. Doubtful.
I can't believe I said that. Actually, I really thought it was called that.
Now you are Mrs. Doubtful, right?
I really thought it was
criticism. You are Mrs. Doubtful.
She gets to the door and she's like, "Oh no, wrong door." She's like, "Oh, I'm not too sure if these are the right kids or not." I really thought that was it. I'm sorry. I really thought that was the name of the movie.
It's so good, Mrs. Doubtful. Maybe there's a Mrs. Doubtful. Like the Mr. Men and Little Miss.
Yeah, I used to love them, man. They were awesome.
Maybe there's a Mrs. Doubtful, but it will be Little Miss Doubtful.
Oh my! I really, really thought I'd watched that as a kid, and obviously I watched the wrong movie. Okay, back on track. Here we go, Kenny. Sorry, what was your question?
I was gonna say, as the title of today's show suggests, I was doing a bit of thinking, as I put together the War Room show this week that I also do on BTSC, and I was hearing some of the storylines after that over the next couple of days, and I was kind of thinking, this week's game is very much like we can always talk about a sink or swim game,
big time,
and we can talk about the importance of every game. We can say this is must win, or the Steelers, don't go anywhere this season, and you can say that each and every week, and it's kind of also then dependent on how that team that you lost to or wins goes. But that being said, this week the Steelers have a chance to go 3-4. So maybe, if they're not going to beat the Eagles next week, and I hope they do, and I'm confident they're half a shot. But if the Steelers at least could win this game this week, they go into the bye with 3-5. They only have to win 5 or 6 games down the stretch. They're a chance, as you like to say, Mark. You're saying there's a chance. There's
a chance.
But if you lose this game, right, and you don't have a tiebreaker over a team like Miami, who could be, anywhere between 8 and 11 wins, this is probably, you're up against it, right? At this point, it's pretty wishful thinking. And then I think you lose this game, and then you're getting everyone calling out more about these supposed trades for Claypool and all these different, there'll be all these sort of the seasons.
I think I started that like last year. I'm pretty sure that was me.
Oh, I think we were talking about that off there. I think I was pretty strong on that after 2 seasons.
I'm like, trade him away, like, you know what I mean? Even before he had a good game.
Okay, we'll come to that. But I guess I do actually think for once this is a sink or swim game.
That's Aussie Glenn. G'day, Aussie Glenn from Facebook.
Aussie Glenn.
Hey, mate. Hello, mate. How are you?
Steeler Nation Australia.
Yeah,
he's right. Going from the live chat Facebook side from the audio. For the audio listeners, good chance to catch the Dolphins while their pants are down. Agree. Glad we weren't part of the first 3 games against them. 100%. But anyway, I want to go back to that point. What do you think? What do you think about that sort of notion that this is one of those sink or swim games of the season?
Well, I think the best thing you said so far is if we can use a title every single week, that would cut down our time. Trying to think of titles, and that would be like, imagine if our show was just called Sink or Swim. Wouldn't that be an easy process every single week? No, it really is. Like,
well, in 10,000 years, we could do that because, you know, in 10,000, the magnetic poles are switching. So actually, the northern hemisphere is going to be down under, and we're going to be like top down. Oh, I don't know even what you call that. Top above.
Well,
I don't know.
Did you write that title because the Dolphins are swimming too? And like, I always think, you know, when I was a kid, when I used to like choose games, I would like, you know, Steelers versus Dolphins. Like, who would win, a piece of steel or a dolphin? Like, easily, if a massive bit of steel would crush a dolphin, like, there's no way a dolphin's beating a steel beam. Like, let's be honest.
It's actually so funny. Like, I don't know whether that's an Australian thing or that's a global thing. Someone tell us in the live chat, but like, we're the same thing. Like, so you're my rugby league team in Australia, the Sea Eagles, right? Yeah. And there'd be teams that would be like, I had a mate that went for the Raiders, right? Which are like they're based on Vikings. Different from Raiders in obviously Las Vegas, who are more like Pirates. But he'd be like, oh, Raiders can like, you know, kill an eagle. And I'm like, no, the eagle's going to like carry you away and like peck you to death kind of thing. And then someone was like, and there's a team called the Storm. And then they were like, well, we're going to strike you down with lightning bolts. And you'd have these weird, like, it's almost like fantasy, like comic book, like arguments about teams. It was really funny. I don't know.
What do you do with the Cleveland Browns then? What happens there? They're just a helmet. Like they're just a like.
Have you seen that thing? Have you seen that thing where someone or that meme does rounds on social media once a year, where it's like, if you look at the Browns logo with the helmet, it looks like a rabbit pushing a shopping cart. Yeah, I can't get that out of my head now. Like,
they're a joke.
And because I don't really care, because I would love someone to explain to me the whole deal about this ugly leprechaun thing on the field that they've got.
The elf. I think that was back from the 1960s or something like that, and they're trying to bring it back. I don't know, but to answer your question from about
not a good look
about 3 minutes ago, Steelers sink or swim. It is
stink or swim. I should have done that instead of sink or swim. I love it.
2-5, right? 2-5 looks bad.
Sorry, this is going down the pizza podcast route. Joe Devil says, well, Superman versus Goku. Oh, that's hard. I wore a lot of Superman costumes as a kid, but I'm going Goku, man. Anyway, one for all the
what? I never watched Dragon. I'm like the only person in the world who never watched Dragon Ball Z. I know. Silence.
Are you serious?
I never watched it. No, I just wasn't.
You know, I went to a Comic-Con a couple of years back, and they had all the Dragon Ball Zs on DVD, and I was like, yeah, HD, I'm going to get it. It's going to be awesome. And each of the seasons was like $80, and there's like 7 or 8 seasons. I was like, it's supposed to be $600 to get this all on box tape. Hell no.
I never watched it because all my friends were watching, and I was like, I don't want to watch what they're watching, so I didn't watch it.
Nah, it was a cool show, man. You missed out.
Yeah, that's why every single time I say that, everyone says you missed out, and I'm like, I just never watched it. So, anyways, to answer your question, go back 5 minutes. I would say. It really is a lot of pressure on our Steelers. Let's think about it.
Yeah,
we got players coming back. They played really well against the Bucs. Like, they took care of Tom Brady. I don't care if Tom Brady's older. Like he's playing worse. However, they still took care of Tom Brady at home. They were underdogs again. They held him to 1 touchdown, field goals, forced fumble by Highsmith. The defense stepped up. This to me is the game where you have to continue this momentum. You can't be chop and change the whole year, because you will go 8-8, 7-9, or whatever it is, right? Or 7-10. If you do not transform all the power and the confidence you had from that game from the Bucs, then it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing if you go and lose this game, because then you got to go underdog again against the Eagles. Now, if you go and win this game, have a bit of fight. Like, I thought the players, they all played pretty well. Claypool stepped up, Trubisky stepped up, Connor Hayward, all those dudes. Man, had a good game, right? The offense needs to get better, running the football and doing all these things. But you need the confidence from this game to go into Miami and lay the smack down and walk out there with a win and say, you know what, we can do it. And why not? Because you showed what Tom Brady is going to be this year. And this is a turning point. And I know in the season it's like we're not out of it yet, but this is a true turning point for our Steelers.
Well, I've got another question for you. So it's your third favorite topic outside of the Steelers and pickleball, and that is, wait for it, right? Last week, apparently, Brian Flores went out to the defense and said, forget all the technical schemes. Tom Brady's too good for that. Find a way to get to rush the quarterback, right? You need to put pressure for Tom Brady, and that's what they did, and we saw that across the line. That's what Brian Flores said. Now, Brian Flores this week knows the ins and outs, and everyone's down. Tomlin tried to downplay him knowing Miami and all the rest of it. But you saw what happened last year in the Miami Baltimore game and how much they blitzed their quarterback. See, it's Mark's favorite comment. Everyone watching live, you can see his reaction. If you're on the audio side, you missed it. But he's like, come on, man. Right?
I don't know where you're going with that. I have no idea where you're going.
Flores is working with Austin and Tomlin on this week.
I actually had no idea where you were going in that comment. Like dead set, no idea where that was trending, A bit like
I loved your reaction. If you're on the audio side and you're listening, not on when we're live right now on a Friday night, you got to open the show, scroll to 15 minutes, and you got to see Mark's reaction.
It was a bit like, because I did say I had no idea where you were going, and a bit like my Twitter, non-existent. Anyways, but no, you're right, because I've set a record that was one of my favorite games to watch. It was fantastic, man. They had Holland, the safety, blitzing. They were showing 8 people blitzing, and then they will back off 2 and only send 5. You know what I mean? They were going man to man and saying, hey, Lamar Jackson, what can you do against us? Absolutely nothing. So, and that was like one of the most well-coached games I've seen on defense. They blitzed I think 70 to 80% of the time and said zero blitz were coming after you. And they executed the play to a T and won that game. So I would love to see that. Now, can our players? I don't know if our players are in that same role to do that. Do we need TJ? Highsmith can do it, but do we need players? Do we need Terrell Edmonds coming down from the box and showing blitz? I want to see them get in their head, and maybe they can do that because obviously Brian Flores worked there for 3 years. He must know some ins and outs to know the team. Surely he must know some things.
That. I mean, Tua said this week, he was like, he knows my weaknesses. He knows my strengths.
Yeah, because he would have told him. So I would love to see something like that, but then our players need to buy in as well. But do we see certain blitzes? I do miss the identity of Blitzburg. We haven't really seen it the last few years. But if they can get home with 4 rushes and keep back more in zone coverage as well, we'll love to see that too. So I'm glad you did bring that up because it was such a fun game to watch. And to me, that was a game of 2021.
Yeah. And the other one I wanted to bring up as well, because if they're going to play that sort of defense, I mean, if they are going to play that sort of defense, the person that's coming to major play here is going to be Terrell Edmonds. Terrell Edmonds had a fantastic week last week. But I've had this narrative now for about 2 to 3 seasons. You know this. Like, people say, oh, you shouldn't have been a first-round pick. He's a fantastic first-round pick. He beats the average AV, or if you look at Pro Football Reference, for safeties drafted 2012 to 2019. And an AV is, for those that are unfamiliar, Pro Football Reference give a score based on statistical output, which is weighted against the best players at that position in the league. He's up there. So he's actually, on paper, he's actually done everything he needs to do. And I said this on Twitter with Chris Carter this week of Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I replied to one of his tweets about Edmonds. The funny thing with Edmonds is, if you actually look at it, he wouldn't have got those numbers if he wasn't available. I know that's like every player, but because he just plays a sheer large amount of games, like he's rarely injured, he's actually able to consistently improve and get better and make an impact throughout a season. And so when Mike Tomlin actually says his best ability is availability, it literally is. And you saw that last week when he wasn't in the game against Josh Allen. And then you see him last week and the impact he makes. Surely the Steelers are giving him $4 or $5 million a year in this offseason and just signing him up for 4 or 5 years.
To me, he played fantastic last week. He led with 10 tackles. I think he got 2 tackles for a loss.
Pardon? I don't think so.
He's having a dig at me. Sorry for the audio silence, guys, but that was Stab the Steelers, your mate, Daniel J, who does podcasts. He's been fired, actually. Just news in. Daniel J's been fired for the worst take on ever. Norwood had a better game because he knows that Norwood's my guy. I've got this jersey in the background, number 21. Right?
Oh, that's a Norwood one. I didn't know that it was a Norwood one. Oh, that's a backward Tom. Is that a backward Bradshaw?
No, I think he's having a go. He said Norwood had a better game. Maybe he did, but no. But he knows that
Edmonds is integral. Edmonds organizes this defense. I'm a fan of Edmonds.
He did play well. I think he played well, and I can't wait to see yet again Edmonds.
Mate, he had 10 combined tackles. A tackle for loss 100% of the snaps.
Yeah, and also seeing hopefully Minka comes back too. If Minka's back as well, like healthy against Tua in the defense, like that's his old team as well. I can see if they can stop the big passes, like because Tom Brady couldn't get down the field, we have a chance for the short game and let them go up the field and get the field goals, but don't let them do anything else because Terrell has been playing really well, and I wouldn't mind seeing them lock him up as well for two safeties back there for the next 4 or 5 years. It'll be great.
Well, exactly, and you go back to the whole, Clark and Palomalu situation, right? So, like, just the reverse in terms of, where they're spending the money on each position. So, yeah, I think it's kind of interesting, but I wanted to bring up that point because I think, I don't think Flores has completely designed this defense for this week on his own, but I love it. I love the matchup that's coming this week.
But
like, if you love defense, it's going to be awesome.
Surely he's giving some insight though to the team because he did work there for 3 years. There are going to be some secrets you have about this team, and they still have similar personnel. They have the Tuas there as well. So if they can figure out his weaknesses and really exploit that, this could be an even game where then Kenny, because the Dolphins don't know much about Kenny Pickett. They've only seen him like six quarters or whatnot. So this could be something where I'm hoping for a big game from Kenny Pickett and really lay the smack down on the defense. But I'm getting super hyped because of last week, how well they played in the adversity that they struggled. And we talked about it, last week, like pushing through that. And if they go on to be sink or swim moment right now, if they go to be 3-4 with a shot against the Eagles where we were meant to lose that game again, I would love to see them win this game at least. At least win this game.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I have to say, I shared a clip with Jeff Hartman, obviously senior editor of BTSC the other day, of Mike McDaniels, because he did this really funny press conference. I
he showed me that one too, actually.
Yeah, I sent that one to you too. Yeah, I thought I did. I really like him. I think he's hilarious. I'm like, I can't wait when I watch his press conferences. Wasn't he
reacts. Annoyed about answering the Tua concussion protocol question over and over or something he said?
It was pretty funny, yeah. And then there was the whole thing. I missed the start of how this narrative came out, but the whole thing around the ping pong table or something. And then he was basically like, yeah, I agree with him, but we're not here to talk about the ping pong table. Like, it's just, I don't know. He's a funny guy. He's just like, he's just a good bloke. Anyway, go.
Oh, the media to me just they turn it into a drama. Even this week with the QB1 controversy, the Matt Canada getting called out by Chris Boswell, which to me it's a non-story, right? But they don't make that.
He definitely did. I know people are saying there's someone else in the frame. Oh, 100, right? As I said on the BTSC Slack channel, like if you watch the clip, he waits till he's kind of in the hallway so that like if he turned around, like who said that kind of thing, like.
That's awesome.
I don't know. As I like suggested that, I'm like, it's something I'd do too. Like,
yeah, but that to me is like it's. We all know that Matt Canada's bad. It's not hearing. It's not breaking news that Matt Canada's a bad offense. So I'm kind of glad if it was.
And how many games has Canada won? Boswell's won heaps of games.
It's true.
Boswell's the one that kicks it through the goalpost, man.
Boswell might have more points actually than the Canada offense, maybe possibly. Yeah, I think it's 46 points.
Oh, that's a good call. I'll go find that one out for you right now. Well, we've only had one touchdown to a wide receiver.
We've had I looked up yesterday. We've had 9 touchdowns. So what's that times 6?
9 times 6 is 54.
Right. Boswell's got 44 points because we have like about 90 something points in total.
So it's 10 less. So it's 10.
Yeah. Less. So there you go. Now, if you want to look it up as well,
I'm having a look now.
I'm pretty sure it's 9 touchdowns for the offense in total, right? Of course, you get the extra points for Boswell. Boswell's been kicking the field goals. I'm pretty sure he's right behind in points because we've only scored, I think, about 98 points for the season. That's just off my memory from what I looked yesterday.
At 33, and then he's got 8 extra points, so that'd give him 41.
Right, so you've got 41 points, but how many? So 9 touchdowns, you said, is what something 50-something points. So he's only about 10 behind.
Yeah, but how many rushing touchdowns do they have? That's what you got to look up too.
No, that's in total. So 9.
Okay, 4, 8.
I'm pretty sure. Anyways, it's very
56,
interesting.
yeah. Anyway, he's like 12 points behind. He's less than 2 touchdowns behind the offense. Come on, man. And we're 6 games through the season. Come on. I shouldn't even be. We shouldn't even have to compare that.
No.
Like that metric, that's the metric we got to follow, right? Is how close Boswell stays in line. Which, you know what? I'll have to create a chart this week that we can show live.
Well, you should, because it should be like, it really should be, Boswell should be getting
just
1
show this
point.
trend line.
1 point to every 6 points, right? So he should be 5 behind every time, but he's not. He's about 2 behind.
Man.
So
that made me feel really, really average about this offense now. Oh my god,
it is bad. They've scored, I think, under 100 points in 6 games. So the offense, I think the offense is either 8 touchdowns or 9. I believe there is 5 running and 2 receptions, 2 TDs, one to Claypool and one to Najee Harris. And Boswell.
So we had Feitner. Did we have Feitner for 2 years? Haley's last year was 17, wasn't it?
I'm not too sure.
I'm sure. I think it was 70. Yeah, it was 17. Yeah, it was. Todd Haley. I just want to find out the difference. But keep talking. I'm going to find out the difference here. This is just...
No, so I found it, right? So sorry if it's more stat driven, guys, but I found it. So touchdown scoring, we have scored 9 total. Okay, 9.
Yeah, but the offense has only got 8. The offense has only got 8.
I got you. 3 for Harris. Najee Harris has 3. Kenny Pickett has 2. Frymouth has 1. Claypool has 1. And Trubisky has 1. So the offense has 8 touchdowns, right? So whatever 8 times 6 is, that's your points. And then the scoring wise, Chris Boswell has what does he have? I think, where did I lose it? He's got 11 field goals and 8 extra points. So 41 or so. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
Oh my god, I can't believe you've like warped my mind about this. This is the stat that I'm going to look at from now on. This could be called a touchdown under stat. So what I can tell you is that in Todd Haley's offense in 2017, which we know was a great year for the offense scored 228 points, right? And Boswell had 35 times 3 is 105. Plus 37. He had 142 points. So there was almost a 100-point gap between the two.
So really, Boswell calling out Matt Canada, there's a lot to that.
100%.
So are you saying that Boswell should be our offensive coordinator? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm just saying I don't care if Boswell calls out the coordinator. I think he's right.
Because a lot of people would be saying, well, why would the kicker call out a coach? But he's got all the right to, because he's scoring most of the points. He's scoring what? 50, almost 45% of the points.
Well, think about this. Until this season, Boswell didn't need to kick a Heinz Field record to help him win a game.
Oh, that's great too, by the way. That is fantastic.
That's gone under the radar a few weeks back.
Oh,
that went way under the radar.
59-yarder for Boswell. I'm so close to buying his
jersey.
At
Heinz Field, man.
Oh.
His number, I love his number too. And for us, we could get Wizard of Oz on the back, because that's like...
I think he's... So starting where we went from before, him calling out Canada, there's a lot of merit to it when you think about it. If you're scoring all the points,
Yeah, great one. Last in the live chat. Yeah, that's 228 points, not including. They had 12 touchdowns and they're on the rushing side, and they had 29 passing touchdowns.
Is that? I'll ask you a question. That's a worrisome trend, isn't it? Knowing that your offense has only had 1 receiver touchdown and 3 running three touchdowns to your running back. That's 4 in 6 games.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad, isn't it?
It's pretty bad, man.
And yet Matt Canada sits back and says, everything's fine. We need to improve a little bit. You need to improve a lot.
Mate, it's the ratio. I can't do that maths while we're on a podcast, but the ratio of that, I'm going to give an updated. We're going to have a ratio going forward, but it's like, right now, I think it's something like 3-2. It's like 3-2 if you look at Haley, and if you look at right now, it's like 6-8 or something.
I just found the best stat that's going to probably end this conversation, not the podcast, but the conversation. So Chris Boswell is averaging 6.8 points per game, and our offense is averaging 16. So 10 point, there's a 4-point
gap.
But
that's a little bit subjective though, because that's averaged against the number of games versus if you look at Dust Thunder straight away in the live chat, fire Matt Canada. Exactly. But
It's pretty bad, man. They need to get better. And I think a lot of skilled
Boswell's
players
just forget, because the Steelers have played. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Steelers have played average red zone offense, right? So Boswell's got a new plan. He's just like, guys, we're just going to get within 40. I kick the goal, we go again, and we just see how many goals. As long as the defense stops them and we kick like 10 goals, we're fine.
Dude,
that's how they're going to get to 30 points.
What did the quote say? Because the more I think about it now, the more you talk about it, it makes a lot of sense. What did he say? We won, yeah, not because of you.
I think. Yeah, well, it wasn't because of you.
Wasn't because of you, and that makes.
But
a lot of
at
sense.
the time, he had 2 field goals in that game. I'm sure he did. They had 20 points.
Yeah, and I guess extra points too. So he's getting points in there. You know, Boswell is key to our team too. I'm so glad we signed him.
Actually, you point that out right then, because that means he had 8 out of the 20 points. Man. How about this one? Did Matt Canada score any points? Did Matt Canada score any points against Buffalo? No. Did Chris Boswell? Yes.
Hey man, I just the offense gets him there to the line, right? But still, at the same time, this offense is struggling.
Does it? Sometimes the defense does. When the defense has.
If you did like the pro next gen stats where you find out what they had for lunch before, but like you could go down that Minkah Fitzpatrick got, I think 2 interceptions will put him in close range for TDs, right, for the Trubisky one. So there hasn't been. I've only really seen one drive from this offense, and that was the Kenny Pickett drive. I have not really seen a real good drive. And maybe the last drive from Trubisky where they killed the 4 minutes. Other than that, it's been turnovers or Chris Boswell going, you know what, I can do a 60-yarder. Let's go. So, hey, they need to step up because the players, like skillful players, but the offensive coordinator is just not cutting it. And I think everyone around Steel Nation Worldwide knows that. And then something needs to happen. But it won't. It won't happen. Not till after season.
It's just funny, man. It's just funny. I like it cracks me up, man. It absolutely cracks me up.
But it makes sense now that that video came out. It does make a lot of sense if it was him pointing. And also, there's nothing wrong with that. To me, in a team like that,
everyone's like, oh, he didn't say that's Canada. Who else did he say it to?
I don't know. But there's nothing wrong. If he did say it, there's nothing wrong with it, right? To me, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, so, you should be calling out players in that scenario. You know what I mean? And also, like, the other big news was Deontay and Trubisky. And Trubisky
I didn't believe that. They told him before that. I reckon the fight happened after that, where, like, Deontay, there would have been something that had gone on, and Deontay's, probably had some comment under his breath about, thank goodness kind of thing. And then that's caused the argument. That's more likely to me than... they went up to him on the sideline. They went up to Pickett on the sideline at halftime.
Yeah, but I don't mind the way that Trubisky, stood up for himself and said, you know what, mate, it's not just all on me or whatever. I like that.
Yeah, and Deontay's got throwing stones in glass houses or catching stones in glass houses. Like,
you wouldn't trust him, would you? You wouldn't trust him if your life, you're got to throw him your keys, and it's over a grate, and you're like, you're gonna catch this? Yeah, mate, I got this, and it goes right through down to the grate. Like, you wouldn't do it. You would not trust him.
You wouldn't let him hold. Put it this way: this is my new saying for him. You wouldn't let him hold your baby.
No, do you mind? Oh Jesus!
Oh no, it's in the
air. He starts blaming Trubisky.
Yeah. He really drops the baby, and then
that's all Trubisky's fault.
Trubisky probably said to him. Trubisky probably said that to him because Trubisky just had a baby. He's like, I wouldn't even let you hold my baby. That's probably that's how the argument started.
Hey, and that's got a lot of merit to it as well. You wouldn't, I just imagine.
Imagine if we started that trend.
I know we're going off track here, but I really just imagine Trubisky throwing his baby a tight spiral like to Deontay Johnson's hands. Like, I don't know where we're going. Okay.
Classic. But I mean, the other thing about it too is that like Deontay's got to be careful because the Steelers are going to. If this continues, I mean, I don't think they can get rid of him without copping a massive dead cap hit, but they can later on. So after this, after next season, so he's got to be careful. I'm just glad put that aside and put the Claypool trade stuff aside, I'm just glad we got George Pickens, man.
Yeah, he's an excellent.
Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine if we didn't have Pickens, and then where would we be at with all of this? Right?
Be hard. He can.
But I want to go over the defense because you and I like talking defense.
We
talked a lot about the offense. We've talked a lot about the offense in general this season.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see them providing the difference to help the Steelers win? So basically, what I mean is, where do they need to hone in on? And I know it's easy to say rush tour and all the rest of it, but like, what do they need to shut down, or who do they need to shut down to win this game?
They need to shut down those receivers. Waddle and Tyreek Hill have over 1,200 yards between them, right, in 6 games. Right. They need to shut those two dudes down. They need to play the exact similar way to they played the Bucs, when don't let anything up big. And I believe that Edmonds and Minka can do that. I'm seeing a big game from Minka. This is Sunday Night Football for Minka. He plays. You remember that tackle he had on the Ravens? Pass catch. I don't know who it was on primetime or whatever it was. Knocked him out of bounds. Fantastic. I see a big game for Minka. And the secondary as well. They got to back it up. They have to back it up. In reality, you played so well against Mike Evans and those crew. Arthur Millette called at the locker room and he backed it up. Did he not? You know, the former Jet, the veteran over 100%. There. Who would have thought it would have been Arthur Millette, having a spark for this defense, saying, you know what?
I love it.
Me too. What are we all doing, guys? While we're playing music, we shouldn't be happy. We should be pissed off, because he's been through some bad times with the Jets, right? And now you have a good team, a great defense, or could be a great defense, and they're playing like they're a high school football team. So, and I believe that Ogunjobi stepped up too. Yep. Miles Jack leads tackles. He's playing fantastic. These guys are starting to buy in, and I believe they're starting to communicate. And holding Tom Brady to 1 TD is fantastic. So let's do the same. Don't let them burn us. Don't let them burn us with the easy completions to Tyreek Hill that zooms past you. I reckon they got a plan for him, man. They're going to plan for the deep
They got a plan. They got a plan for this.
To.
I'm worried if they've got the offensive plan to take care of what the defense offers, like Miami's defense looks like. But something new in all our live shows now, we've got to cut to a break to our sponsor. We'll be right back in 3 seconds. And we're back on Steelers Touch Down Under. Sorry about that little sponsor break, but the sponsors are important. So Mark, we were talked there about in terms of like the schematics and what they've got to do on the defensive side. Want to get the live chat involved in this as well, so chuck your thoughts in here and we'll bring them up. But I want to do a few over and unders this week to sort of gauge how you're really feeling about this week's game.
Well, let's go.
Over and under 2 touchdowns, 2.5.
Under, because if he gets 3, we win. They win. Under.
Because Matt can't score.
Pretty much, it's all balls. Under.
Over and under Kenny Pickett, 2 throwing touchdowns or passing touchdowns.
I want to see a breakout game, but I'm going to say under. You know what I'm saying? I want to see a breakout game, but I don't think so.
Alex Highsmith, 1.5 sacks.
Over.
Ooh.
I think.
Daredevil's with you.
I think in that scenario there, Tua's going to be running around crazy. I think Highsmith is fast enough to chase him down. I really do.
Okay. What about Bush and Mars Jack combine for 3 tackles for a loss? Over or under?
Over. If they play that scheme that Flores can implement to a certain degree, by who they don't know who they're going to send, I can say over. So far, the Miami Dolphins are scoring, 10 points?
Terrell Edmonds, 1 forced fumble, over or under?
He gets involved, doesn't he? 1 forced fumble. He definitely gets involved. And you know what? I think our cornerbacks and our secondary is more physical than their receivers. I'm going to go over.
Okay. Minka Fitzpatrick, 1.5 over under pass breakups, pass defenses, whatever you people want to call them.
Under. I don't think they'll go his way. They won't go his way, but he'll try and get himself in the play.
Okay, what about turnovers over or under for this defense? 2.
I would love to see it. I'm so biased. I can't hold it back. Over. I just can't hold it back. I'd love to see a 3 or 4 turnover game. Why not? Minka's back. You know, I just want to see it.
All right. Chase Claypool, over or under 80 yards?
80 yards?
Yeah,
under.
Receiving only. Receiving only.
He's not getting 80 yards. No way, Jose. Well, no offense. He had a really great game, but he's not getting 80 yards.
All right. Over or under Pickens, 1 TD?
Ooh, is that his first TD?
That would be.
Pickens first. Yeah, yes, come on. Sunday Night Football. Pickens.
Where legends are made, man.
I'd say over. He gets 1.
All right. Boswell. Boswell, 3 field goals over and under.
Wait, just 1 second. So far, everyone's doing pushes, right? I'm already losing my money because I'm either going one or the other. I'm losing my money either way. Sorry, Boswell over what? Sorry, what?
3 field goals.
3. I'm going to go under. I hope that I hope we don't see him. Only for extra points. Under.
Okay. Connor Haywood, over 30 yards receiving, over or under.
Ooh, they have to go over. You saw how well he played last week. If they don't use him in this offense, they're silly. Actually, they are crazy if they don't use him.
Okay. Pat Freiermuth with an either or. 1 TD, or plus 45 yards.
$45 yards, I think.
Okay.
I'd say
that's
so.
All I got. That's all I got for
that last one's a hard one because if it's 45 yards, I got a feeling the Steelers are playing pretty well by then. If they're using
I got the other way. I think if he's got a TD, I think they're playing pretty well because they're playing good red zone offense. If they've got to throw 45 yards, they're chasing him in the 4th.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. So what if he got a 44-yard TD?
Then you double hit. It's like a push, but it's like the reverse push where you get it still.
Did you just make those up?
Yeah, on the fly.
You could be a betting market right there. That's the Claypool one. I would say that's a hard one, but I would say under 80 yards.
Where's with the receiving too? Because you got to think he's probably into a sweep or something like that.
It counts the Matt Canada.
No, I said receiving only. But if you included like total yards, then yeah. I mean 80s. You can see it. You can see the path to that.
You didn't name Deontay. Did you name Deontay Johnson in that list?
No, because I don't trust him to catch my baby. I don't have a baby, but you know.
Oh man! Did you ever used to yell that when you were a kid? Hey, don't drop this, and you'd throw someone at a ball or something.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah.
Well, I fake. You know what's funny? I fake throwing the ball to my dog all the time, and then so he'll like half run and turn around and he's like, "Where's the ball?" But if you do it like once and you try and do it within the like later on that day, he'll be like, "Nah," like he knows.
All right, let's break it down. What do you think is the overall problem with his catching style? You know, you've played some rugby. What's the idea about DJ? Is there something he's missing? Is he when you've watched tape, right, or watch highlights, what do you think is the reason why he can't catch it?
It's hard. It's a really, really good question. And I'd love to be able to say I'll come back next week with a clear answer with some examples of why. But the thing I think with DJ is that, and this is why I never thought, remember and I said this a couple of the last few weeks in a row, but remember when earlier on the season they were talking about his deal and I said he's just not a 20 million plus a year wide receiver. He's just not. Look, he can run routes really well. He can get separation deeper in the toward the end of the route. He's a pretty quick guy, right? And he can make some fantastic catches. I think there are some athletes out there that do struggle just in general. It doesn't matter what position, what sport, they struggle with consistency, right? Mm-hmm. And the consistency is a big, I don't know if people watch tennis out there. Andy Murray's one of those players. There are different teams around the world, like different sports people that struggle with this. consistency. There are golfers that'll win a PGA tournament and then they won't win for like, years, and then they'll win like a major and everyone's like, where did that person come from, right? Consistency is the hardest thing in sport. I mean, we see with the Steelers week in, week out. So I think there's a little bit of that involved. I think as well with Deontay is I think sometimes he overthinks things, and then sometimes I don't think he pays enough attention. And so there are some routes I see when he drops a catch where he's overshot it, or he stopped too early, or the timing's just not in sync. And It's kind of interesting when you think about Big Ben, and he had some early success with Deontay. Then he had the season out injured. Then there was like I think it was the first 3 or 4 games when he was back when it wasn't doing that well. But Deontay did really well with like Mason, and he did all right with Duck. I think those guys have to specifically target him. I think those guys as well. Deontay's the sort of player you want to give the ball in space to. And when you think about the way this offense has been set up with this quick fire passing, that's a harder thing to do, right? Because he's receiving the ball as soon as he's hit the route. So if he's a player that occasionally overshoots it, undershoots it, is not quite in the right position, is mentally not quite there, you're going to see drops. And so, like, I think this is more on him than other people. I don't know who I heard say this recently, but I was listening to some show that I know someone said it, which was Deontay would be the league's best number 2 if you had a number 1, right? And I think to me that's what I like about Pickens so much is like I know it's potential, but I'm sitting there going, when we were talking about him with Mitch before, I pulled up his number of over the cap. He's really expensive to cut, so you're not going to do that, right? Particularly if you move Claypool, and I don't think they're going to do that. If they win, that's all I will say on that, actually, on Claypool. If they win this week, they're not trading Claypool because they're in it with a shot. They lose this week, I don't know, maybe. All bets are off. That's why I think this is one of those sink and swim games. But going back to Deontay, if you take the pressure off him having to play against the other team's best cornerback, which in this league, particularly in the AFC, where they prioritize that, if you look at all the top cornerbacks, sorry, like I think he can do really well, but he's not the dependable Antonio Brown, Keenan Allen, sort of player that's gonna catch the ball every time, right? He's just not that guy. But they know him by now, and so you've got to work out how you're going to be in a position to be successful with him, where he can get open. I mean, this is why. If they do move Claypool, I hope they find a way to bring like Juju back in the offseason, right? Imagine if you had Pickens, Deontay, and Juju, because Juju, I did, because you could have Juju taking those slot, those passes in the slot or in the slants. DJ can do like these awesome routes and drag routes and run across the field and all the rest of it, wheel routes, and all those sorts of things. And then you've got Pickens that can go down the field and just and catch anything, right? And get you the first, get you across the sticks. So going back to it though, I think the problem that it's like a triple layer problem. It's the consistency. It's that I think, catching is clearly out of all the things he does, that's great. Catching can be suspect sometimes. Like, it's funny. If you go to like a Madden rating, his catch rating would be like an 80, but his spectacular catch would be like a 90. Like he's just got this ability.
Can't get the easy ones, but he gets the hard ones, right?
Exactly, right. And I kind of get it. Like I could always solve the hardest maths problems when I was at school, but I couldn't get the easy ones. And my dad used to sit there and go, "I don't know how this is possible," because you got this question right and this one. You just sit there and you're like, "How is this possible?" But I think these issues are exacerbated by the fact of the Matt Canada offense, where it's this, and even Randy Featon, where it's this short, like quick fire passing, and a guy like Deontay, you've got to be more instinctual with that. And I think that's why you're seeing a guy like Pickens do well. I think that's why you've seen Claypool struggle, that's why you see Freiermuth do well. It's this instinctual, how are you going to respond in that moment, right? Like I think about Martavis Bryant, and imagine if you had him in this offense, right? Like that would be tremendous. So I guess, I know that's a long-winded way of saying it, but I do think it's a triple layer problem. And I think some of it's on Deontay and some of it's not. And that's why you see games where he does really well and you see games where, he doesn't do so well. I mean, isn't the stat true that he's had no more His season high is less than 65 yards on the season so far.
It's a long way of saying he can't catch. You know,
it's not that he can't catch. I would never go as far as to say that. But the catches that he makes there are some catches that he didn't make against KC, and Juju Smith-Schuster's come back from a shoulder injury and been out for like 10 weeks of the year, and he makes those catches into traffic. And you sit there and you're like, really? But I don't know. Like, I think for the cost of what Juju is, and the Steelers, in fairness, didn't have Pickens on the roster. They didn't know what he would be at the point in time. But if you look at the cost value of Smith-Schuster and Deontay, I'm going Juju every time. It's not just because I love Juju. I honestly think what he offers to a defense or on offense like this changes the game bigger than what Deontay will do week in, week out.
So is there a possibility in the offseason that Juju can come back, you think, if things line up?
Yeah, but if KC do really well, would he and remember Kelsey's getting older and they've got a much more spread offense. Would he want to come back? I think he'd love to close his career out here. I think he'd be fantastic with Kenny Pickett. Yeah. Right. And a refreshed O-line, right? I think he's just the sort of wide receiver that Kenny Pickett needs. I think if Kenny Pickett had been drafted the year before, right, and obviously Kenny needed a big college year to be drafted as high as he was, but if Kenny had been drafted the year before, I know these are if, buts, and whens, Juju would have stayed. I mean, there are people right now that if the Steelers only win 6 games are mocking Jordan Addison to the Steelers to be to do what they've done with Tua and Waddle, to do what they've done with Burrow and Jamar Chase. Now, if we get that higher pick, I want to take a top quality corner. I don't want to take a wide receiver. But I see the logic there. And if I look at Addison and I look at the short passing game, and that's what Kenny Pickett will need as a rookie to be successful, that's important. And that, I think, is a problem with the offense right now. They don't have, Pickens does it, outside the numbers, but in the short passing game. But Pickett needs someone that's going to go over the middle, time up, and catch 9.5 out of 10 balls, or 95% of those, or even 90% of those. Deontay's not that guy.
That's
why Freiermuth is so integral to the offense.
Yeah, get Freiermuth involved.
But Michael G says that as well. Michael G is exactly, you and I are on the same page. Pickens and Freiermuth are the focus, and Chase and DJ can complement. That's it, right? It's a great question. But it's like football. It's like when people say, is the Steelers going to win based on their offense or defense? It's a complementary game. Is the defense going to be on the field for 1 million snaps a game, or are they going to, have a normal? Are the Steelers going to dominate possession? These are there's no. But I don't think I would stick by it. I don't think DJ at the extra money he's going to get paid over the next 2 years is 30% better than Juju Smith-Schuster. And I think what Juju would offer someone like a Kenny Pickett would be more beneficial to this team. But that's just me.
You got a winner for this game? You choosing a side or what?
It's hard. I mean, I like that defense from Miami. I got to say. But man, I'm riding with the Steelers, baby. You go and beat Tampa at home. You got to roll in. You got Kenny Pickett. You got Freiermuth back. They got a bit of swag. But if they lose this game by and not just lose the game, but they are, it's less about the points. So you can play badly and come within 7 points of them or whatever. But if you don't walk out of this game with confidence as a fan, then
it's back to square one. Back to square one.
I mean, look, I think they'll do better against the Eagles than what they did against Buffalo. But I think the Eagles are priming themselves for a couple of big losses. And the Eagles are a team. I said this. I was talking to someone actually in the street recently. He's a big Colts fan. I didn't know it. His dog likes playing with my dog, and we got talking, and somehow NFL came up, and I ended up talking for half an hour, kind of thing about it. But I said to him, the Eagles are 1 or 2 injuries away from being a really bad team. One injury on their O-line, 1 injury in the secondary. They got a problem. And that could happen this week before the Steelers even play them. But I think, as I say, if the Steelers can't win this game and back it up, then things are going to get really tough really quickly. And all the problems and those storm clouds around the Steelers are just the pressure's going to dial up.
They just got to play a very competitive game, and if they lay the duck egg like the 38-3, the Buffalo Bills, then to me it's back to square one. You had a really good win against Brady, and it's time to use that momentum, go forward, and just show up and show out. And I think it's going to be a big game for Pickett and the receivers because Claypool knows what he can do now. I really think. Oh yeah, and the Eagles are on a bye.
Yeah, the Eagles are on a bye. I just realized that as I said all that. But anyway, someone can still get injured at training.
It happens. People get injured celebrating.
Well, Leal must have got injured at training.
Yeah.
Or aggravated it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But I think with that's going to wrap up this week's Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matty Peverell with Marky D. As always, Mark.
Go Steelers.